Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. I'm Les Winston. I'm the national spokesperson for socialsecharity.org. That's a project of the Endow America Network Foundation. And one of the objectives that we have is to endow America, to change America from being 30 trillion in debt to 30 trillion endowed in the non-governmental organizations, in the 501c3 organizations and communities. If they're endowed, they don't have to spend a lot of time raising money, and they can do what they're supposed to do properly. But in order to endow them, we have to shift money. And shifting money is a long-term process to shift enough of it to be able to take care of what we want to do. We don't believe that the federal government or even state governments should be supporting non-governmental organizations. And we want to replace that part of the support of nonprofit organizations by endowing them. And we can endow them with the help of the community, where the community also gets help, where the individuals like you, if you're a taxpayer, you can do things to reduce your taxes, and you can do things to increase your income, and you can also do something important by leaving a legacy behind. And that's what the Congress gave us in 1969 when they gave us this special section of the tax code, section 664. That's why we call this program Route 664, and the radio program is Route 664 as well. It's the road to human kindness. It's the way that we're going to make things change in the world by increasing the charitable wealth, by increasing endowment to nonprofit organizations so that they can function at the best and highest level of capability that they have to make things really work in the community. I'm also interested in letting you know that you can maximize your own assets. You can maximize assets by using charitable tools, by using the social charity tools. You can maximize assets. Maximizing assets is very important because you work most of your life to accumulate what you want to use for your retirement, what you're going to pass on to others. And it would be foolish if that were to be diminished in any way by something that you could control. And there are a lot of things that you can control to maximize your assets, whether they're given to your heirs or whether they're used to live on for your own personal income. Maximizing means avoiding issues that you can avoid legitimately. And one of the issues is the cost of probating an estate, for example. If you have to pay a lot of money to probate an estate, that diminishes the amount that's left to the heirs, and therefore it wasn't maximized. In the recent edition of Wealth Management magazine, there were 13 celebrities that they picked who didn't do very well. Two of them were James Brown and Michael Jackson. James Brown was not very clear in how he left his estate. The godfather of soul, who died in 2006, left a will to bequeath his worldwide music empire to an education charity, as well as carving out personal and household effects of six children named in the will. But his girlfriend, Toni Ray, received nothing, and several of the children contested the will. And so what happens at the end of the day, many millions were paid in the form of taxes and legal fees to be able to make that estate work. And Michael Jackson also did some things, didn't do some things that he should have done. For example, funding his trusts. You can have a trust that's created for purposes of avoiding probate, but if you don't put anything into it, it doesn't mean anything. So you need to fund your trusts. Those are two entertainers that have left us, and maybe Wanda will put them on dead air one day so you can hear their afterlife presentations. The present, however, we want to deal with folks that are living and folks that are philanthropic. And our guest this morning is Sal Assenza. Sal is the songwriter and founder of the group Smokin' Rockets. I don't know if they're still around. Are they? How are you, Sal?
I'm good. Yes.
Oh, hold on a second. I want to introduce you to Sal by listening to some of the work of Sal.
For goodness sake, I got the hippie shake. Yeah, I got the shakes now. With the hippie shake. Woo, I can't stand still. With the hippie shake. Well, I get my fill now. With the hippie shake. It's in the bag.
are you, Sal?
I'm okay, thank you.
What genre is that?
That would be early rock and roll.
Okay, and is that a revival?
Yeah, that group was the group who did it originally was a British invasion band called the Searchers. And
Yeah, could you boost the volume a little bit, Wanda, possibly, or
yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
yeah, a little bit better now. Okay,
right.
sorry.
That's okay.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the work that you're doing for charitable organizations, and I know that you've done quite a few concerts. That's what our interest here is in philanthropy, and we want to make sure that the listener out there understands that philanthropy is not just raising money, it's not giving money, it's also volunteering. A lot of ways you can do things, but just having the idea sometimes works. So tell me a little bit about how the charitable work that you're doing kind of originated with you.
Well, I guess through my booking agent, he really suggested to do the work. One of the first things I did was I guess it was about 15 years ago, I did a concert in Central Park, New York, for breast cancer awareness. That drew a very big audience, and I think they raised a lot of money. I also did some work with Cousin Brucey. He has a charity called Variety for underprivileged kids. And I did a marathon with him. We did live on the air, I think 4 songs. That was about 10 years ago. And just recently, I just
how successful have you been with that? Has it helped the organizations considerably? Has it been worthwhile?
Well, I would imagine it has. I don't really get to see all the numbers of what money's collected and so on. I just volunteer my time as an entertainer to help them. That's been really my part. Last week we did 2 weeks ago we did a show. And we donated the proceeds to St. Jude's Hospital for cancer children with cancer. So I like to pay it forward as an entertainer when I can. So that's been my philosophy, is to pay it forward when I can, and share my talent and entertain people that might want to help fund these things.
Yeah, I'm always interested in musicians and songwriters, because I'm basically a frustrated singer and sang at weddings, but it's not the same thing. Yeah, right. So where do you get your creative juices from? What's the background behind your music?
Well, I grew up in a musical family. My uncles were all musicians in the swing bands in the 1940s and 50s.
In swing bands.
Yeah. And so, as a child growing up, we'd have these family parties where they would bring their instruments and play. And I was learning how to play the guitar, and they would always push me into bringing my guitar to play with them. But they were very, very good musicians, and it was very difficult for me to keep up with them. But I think that doing that is what drove me to become a better player, a better musician. It was them. It was really my uncles originally.
Yeah, I would love to learn. For some reason I can't. I don't know. I'm just not there. It's not my. I can't get my fingers right on the guitar. I can't. The piano hurts my fingers. So, but
me too.
Yeah. So, but what gives you the most satisfaction, in the work that you're doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, Les. With all the trouble there is in the world today, with illness and with wars and violence, being a musician, I took away something very valuable from being a musician. Being on a large stage and seeing thousands of people that you're entertaining, you begin to scan the audience with your eyes, and you look at the people that are out there, especially if it's an outside show, you can actually see their faces. And you realize that they're all diversified ethnically and financially, and whatever their differences are politically, they all gathered in one place to enjoy the same thing. And I find that very fulfilling to see people come together that would not normally come together to enjoy the same thing. And that's kind of what drives me to keep performing.
I watched the very moving 60 Minutes episode with Tony Bennett, and what he's going through, and what it was amazing about how the music, I guess there's a part of our brain. I'm going to ask you if you have that part of your brain, which is every single note that you play over and over and over and over and over again, it kind of sticks. So
Yeah.
Does it take up all of your brain, or do you have time for other things?
It's a funny thing. No, I have a full-time profession as well, but repetitively playing something does help you to remember it. And once it becomes a memory that way, you can then set forth to perform it in front of people. You really can't perform it until it becomes almost like muscle memory. But I do have a part of my brain that stores all this information. I've learned to play thousands of songs in my life, in my 43-year career as a musician. And every once in a while, one falls out of my head that I played maybe 20 years ago. I just remembered it. And so it's kind of like living a dual life. Part of my life is kind of bohemian, where I mingle with other musicians and I play in these nightclubs sometimes or these big stages. And the other part of my brain is, I work for a company during the day that I've been there 30 years, and I have to be a businessman. So it's been an interesting life that way.
That is interesting. So you're doing what you love to do, and I guess your genius is your music. You could do that 24 hours a day. I don't know about your other work.
Yeah, well, the music is my outlet. That's my sanity. That's where I can become who I really am, and I can flourish there. And the other thing is my paycheck. I support a family and myself, and I have to take care of everybody. So
we need to get you to sell more records. You won't have to do the other stuff. So my guest is Sal Assenza. Sal, what is Smoking Rocket still around?
Yes, sir. We're doing a show this Sunday. We're still around.
Okay, so the band is still together, because I didn't know if you were performing alone or not.
No, I always have a group of musicians I work with. Sometimes it's a trio, sometimes it's more. But the Smoking Rockets is a trio, and we specialize in doing like early rock and roll, roots rock, they call it, rockabilly, surf music, surf rock music, 60s pop music, British Invasion music, because that's really my background. I played guitar for a lot of the British Invasion stars. Because
like who?
Well, I played with Jerry Marsden, who passed away now. He's one of the people I played with. I did some shows with Peter Noon as a hermit for a little while. And I met these people because I played in the Beatle tribute for almost 30 years as John Lennon. And we would do these giant festivals, and these people would inevitably be guest stars in these festivals. And the promoters would always like them to come on stage and do a song with us. And so we had to learn their songs. And after doing this for several years, whenever one of them needed a guitar player and they liked me, they would call me and ask me to do fill-in work to be in their show for a number of weeks or a number of months, which was not easy.
Very, very envious when you hear that kind of life that you lived. Yeah, the bohemian side or the musician side of it is quite. It's very romantic, and it's got a lot of interest in it because we all know music so well. Something comes on the radio, it takes you back to the place you were when that music played the first time. Probably, it's like really powerful stuff. My guest is Sal Assenza. Thank you very much, Sal. I want to go back just for a second. What is the next project you're going to be working on for philanthropic purposes? Do you have anything in mind right now?
Well, yeah, I do. And my agent Ken, he's looking into making a contact right now with St. Jude's Hospital in New York City to see if we can work with them to help them raise money if they need.
Are you is that where you're based? Is in New York?
I'm in New York, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I was going to tell you, maybe we have you come down to a concert for our chamber and what we're doing here locally. You might want to come down like in January, February.
Oh,
we want to put a big burden. We don't want to put a big burden on you.
No, listen, I always enjoy playing. That's what I do.
All right, so we'll look forward to meeting you in person. That would be great.
Same here. Thank you, Les.
Nice meeting you, Sal. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
And my next guest is here in the studio, ladies and gentlemen. We have one of the founders of the community newspapers, Michael Miller.
Nice to see you, Les. I want you to know that I remember that song that you just played.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Can we listen to it again? Because it really was stimulating. As you said, it takes you back.
He's a hippie. He's a hippie. The guy's a hippie.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Did he say 43 years?
Yeah.
Good for him, man, for being able to do that.
Well, 40 years is like, there you go.
Yes, exactly. Way to go, Wanda.
I'm not embarrassing myself anymore. That's it. So you got as much out of me as you're going to get. Okay. What's on your mind?
A couple things. When you're talking about being philanthropic and endowments, could you bring up about some of the colleges and universities around the country who have these huge endowments and how that benefits all of us, including the students?
Okay. Well, I think the endowments that have been created in some of the universities like Harvard and those, they use them to help build the college's, fame, I guess, to build their good name. And they do that by increasing the pay to professors. They bring on more administrative staff to help them. In a lot of instances, some people think that's not as good as if they would just lower the tuition to the students, which I've always been a proponent of, because I think that once you have an endowment that size, and you're not really going to be able to use it effectively to build the university bigger than it is, you need to bring in students that will help and do it for a lower price.
Certainly in the last 10 years, I've seen people, wealthy people, donate money, whether it's to endowments or directly to charitable causes. And the universities come to my mind frequently because that's really building tomorrow. All right.
Well, assuming that the students that they're training will be beneficial to the community. Yeah.
Well, yes. So, but how does a young person take personal responsibility, and why should they say, why do I care about this thing in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years from now? What needs to happen?
Well, I think what would make them do that is if they were going to get something in addition, there's something in it for them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we're all basically selfish. It's just the way things are. Selfish is not a bad word. It just means that you're doing things because those are the things you want to do. I can tell you that I can't make you do anything, and nobody can make me do anything that I don't want to do. So being selfish, you're doing it for self-interest. Even people that volunteer for nonprofit work, they're selfish in a sense because they get good feelings from that. So It helps them. And I think that's what needs to be part of this, that young people need to understand that it makes you feel good to be philanthropic, but it also can help them in the future by creating a device that they can use to produce income for themselves later on. And then at their death, they can do something good for the community.
So we know we hire accountants to say, listen, I want to pay the least possible taxes. That's selfish. You make some money and then you want to keep that for yourself. When I look at wealthy people, there are a lot of here in Miami-Dade County that have given to public institutions and their names go on the building. Some people, they shouldn't do that. Well, that's part of that to and fro with that. I know somebody that just donated hundreds of thousands of dollars at a local high school because he wanted people to know. And I asked him, why do you want people to know? He says, because I want other people to do the same.
Right.
And so for a while,
we know where it came from.
Yes.
Didn't come from nowhere.
Yeah. And I think for a while, people, no, I don't want to tell anybody. I just want to do this totally anonymous. Okay, there's a place for that.
Yeah.
And there's a place for the big way, and we see some of the billionaires are being challenged by their counterparts. Let's give this money and make a difference.
Well, I think naming posthumously is one thing. Naming while a person is alive is a little different. I think you can draw the line there. Maimonides said that the highest level of giving is anonymous giving, but I don't know that he was really talking about philanthropy as much as it was being good to somebody else. But
that's sort of a training, if you will. When there used to be tolls, toll plaza, I would frequently pay for the car behind me, and I would try to avoid any contact with anybody. Right? The toll people knew exactly what it was, so they would smile. Okay, I got something from it. All right. And the best one is you put it in there and you just go off. So one day I threw some money in, and then as I pull off, it was a car full of girls. All right. I'm pulling off. They think I'm trying to make a pass at them, and I'm trying to ignore them.
Right.
So
yeah. I just did a good thing, make you feel good.
Yes. And I think that's a lot of ways to do that. And if on the other side of that is you might have some big tax benefits from doing that. And I think you can do both of those.
Yeah. And I think that the point that we're trying to get across with Route 664 is that when you use these devices that the Congress gave us properly, you really benefit to a tremendous degree, because you are able to reduce taxes where you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do that.
There's a rather wealthy guy I know. People go after him all the time. He says, "Don't blame me because I'm doing what I'm allowed to do." All right.
Right.
which was he's doing some things. He got a big benefit from it, but he did the things that he followed the rules in order to do that.
Well, we have a problem today in the country with a lot of things that are not the rules that are not being followed. That needs to go back to the way we need to follow rules. And the rules that were created have been interpreted by a lot of courts. And one of the most famous decisions was the Honorable Learned Hand, who said that you're not duty bound to pay the most that the law extracts. You have the right and privilege to reduce your taxes as much as legally possible. And that was a decision that they handed down in a very famous case because that issue came up. What do you mean you're not paying taxes? I mean, they talk about companies not paying taxes as if it was, not planned that way by Congress. Congress planned it that way so that they have other benefits for reasons of expanding the economy. There are reasons, good reasons to maximize the wealth in the hands of people.
So why is there? It seems to be a lot of animosity for people that have more than somebody else. What's causing that negative conversation? You're not paying any taxes, or you should be doing more. What's behind it, you suspect?
I think it's our educational system. I don't think that young people are being taught capitalism. I don't believe that they're being taught financial well-being. I don't think they really have an understanding of what the world is about, and it's not just about non-material things. It's about material things. How do you deal with your own material holdings? Where are you going to take care? How do you take care of yourself properly? And that involves accumulating capital.
So let's you bring up a really good point. Congress made laws so that people could go into business and they did deduct certain things, all right?
Yeah.
And your job is create a product or service, deduct the things that you're legally entitled to, build your business, the community, your family, and acquire money that you've worked hard for. So how do we take, let's say, a 45-year-old man, woman that's in business and say, you need to start thinking about this bigger picture, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What sort of things do they need to see or hear before they'll start thinking about endowments?
Well, the first thing they need the basics of all planning in this area has to do with budget. What's the budget of the individual? What are the needs of the individual going forward with regard to their future needs to support themselves? And what is the asset base that they're dealing with? So we do a very preliminary budget analysis, and we do a very basic personal financial statement. Once you have those two pieces together, you can start to see whether or not and where the deficits might be in that individual's needs. In other words, you have to fund what you're going to be using later. If you don't put it together in any way, you're never going to have it.
So you brought up earlier about Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Okay.
Michael Jackson and James Brown.
Yeah.
And how their estate was mucked up.
Right.
Certainly, that's all part of this planning. We know there's a former guy that built a big football stadium, lots of children.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a proper will, and it would cause years of grief.
You're
and a
talking about
lot
Joe
of
Robbie.
money.
Joe Robbie.
Yes,
Joe
a lot
Robbie.
of money was spent on attorneys and taxes
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So when you have when you made some endowments, what does that ultimately do, more or less, for the person that is endowing, giving that money?
Well, the example that you brought up is very interesting because Joe Robbie and Jackie Kennedy, two very famous people. Joe Robbie had a huge estate and it almost got destroyed entirely. Jackie Kennedy had an estate of about $114 million, and out of her estate, only 3 or 4.5% was intended to pay tax. The reason that happened, and the reason why there's a disparity, both people are effective on the same laws, is Jackie Kennedy had the advisors who actually took the opportunity to advise her and make sure that she was advised. She ended up not doing part of that, but having an advisor that can direct you through this process is really important because we want to maximize our assets, but not everybody knows how to do that. Nobody knows all of the issues in the tax code, especially to deal with these things, these social charity devices. I mean, how do you use a pooled income fund properly? How do you use a child remainder trust? So in answer to your question is the benefit to the endower. For example, if you have somebody has a very large pension plan and they're going to use that to retire on, well, to maximize that asset, it would be better if that income was paid out non-tax as opposed to taxable. So you can convert that pension plan to a Roth pension. And by converting it to a Roth pension, the money that comes out is tax-free. That means you have to get less money coming out because you're not paying taxes on it. So that's maximizing that. But how do you go about doing that? You have to create a tax deduction in order to cover that transaction. You can create that tax deduction by using a charitable device, and that charitable device can provide income back to the family. So you win all the way around. And the fact the government actually wins. It's a win-win for the family. It's a win-win for the individual. It's a win-win for the community ultimately, and it's a win-win for the government.
So why do we neglect that so much in our lives?
We don't know about it. I think we just don't know about it. It goes back to financial education, and that's what this program is really all about. This is designed to educate the public that this exists. I mean, why? I guess most people don't have control of a 401k. They just know that one's available to them, but they participate, and they participate because it's de rigueur. Everybody knows this is what you do. If I'm going to retire, I need to have a way to do that, and this is what the employer is giving me, and he's benefiting me by it. But that's done for them. So it's been created in the mind that 401k exists. We want to do that with 664. We want business people out there that are listening today, if they have a non-cash asset that they can use to make a gift to get a tax deduction and income, and eventually pass that on to a nonprofit, that helps them. But they don't know that exists. They don't know that bargain was ever created. And that's just, I fault the government. I mean, I think the government should have done more to promote 664.
So here we are in 2021.
Yep.
Right. You have your show, and then people can go online. They can find out more information about the organization and how they can benefit. And when you look at it, if we were going to sell a building, in my mind, it's not even there yet. All right. What I'm thinking, I can sell that building, I get X dollars. Okay. Now what? All right. And it really takes some people around you to help direct you to look at those options.
Well, you have to think about it as maximizing the asset. Is there something you can do to maximize the asset? Now, you may not have all the answers because you don't know what there is out there to maximize the asset, but you have to be given the opportunity to see what it looks like. If you never see it, you can't use it.
Yes.
So if you're getting, there's a lot of situations, people own a strip center. They own it for 30 years, okay? The depreciation is gone. Their rent rolls are going to be actually lower in comparison to the ultimate value of that property today. In other words, what they may have started with was $1 million property, and they were collecting 7% or 8%, 9% in tax, in rents, is now a $5 million property, and they're only collecting 2.5% in rents. And then and they got maintenance, and they got insurance, and they got there's a lot of things going on.
Leaky roofs, new insurance rates, electrical going up.
All that stuff. And then we don't even know what the capital gains tax. We don't even know what the capital gains tax is going to be because we got this. Congress is in session, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Surprise!
Yeah. So it could be worse. So the people are looking at it and say, well, if I sell, I'm going to pay capital gains. I got to recapture all my depreciation. Is it worth it? And then they figure the tax in it, but they can do that transaction tax free. And that's what the ultra wealthy have been doing for the longest time.
And they, for the most part, they have that available to them because they've been surrounding that. They have advisors. For the average guy, what he's thinking is, what do I have to do to get this money today? And my sense is when I look at people that are very involved in 501cs, 3, 4s, whatever it is, all right, you can see they have an open heart, all right, and they want to do those things. Yes, they can make a living from it. So do you think that those folks are more likely to be able to say, yes, I want to continue doing this and I want to endow this over here? Or do you think, no, I'm just going to give it away?
Again, it depends on the individual. It's like when you learn how to play canasta, the professor says, you ask a question about a specific thing, it says, depends on where you are in the game. It's the same thing here. It depends on where you are in the game. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create another way for young people to accumulate assets for retirement by doing it in incremental contributions, just like they're doing in Social Security. Our objective is actually to get the transfer from Social Security to social charity over a long period of time, starting with the very young, and they can make incremental contributions to a social charity device and use it for retirement purposes. So they can get involved early with regard to building something for later, but they got to earn a living, and they have to know how to do that to the maximum as well. And that's something that they have to do on their own.
So we know between the ages of 50 and 65, it goes pretty fast.
Yes,
right?
it does.
It like immediately, I was looking at some pictures, some events I was involved in. I looked at
Yeah.
it. It was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it seemed like just yesterday.
Yeah.
So folks, younger people have to keep that in mind about where they are, where they want to be, and they look to the community, in their community, their families, right? And if there's things that they want to accomplish.
They need to have a basic understanding of how the financial world works, and that's important.
So in schools, how can from the elementary schools all the way through college, how do you introduce something like this? Sometimes, without them having to attend a class and it's a specific class.
Well, we had an interesting interview with a gentleman who was making presentations in schools using these huge sheets and actually going through a live experience in learning. And I think that's what has to happen is that, when you teach somebody how to add, it's a lot easier to give them money or show them in a situation where they need to use the adding or subtracting or dividing, and actually give them the opportunity to do that in a real situation rather than doing it from a book and learning it in the classroom amongst other people. Unfortunately, I don't think our education, the way that we educate our young people with regard to these things, is very limited. And I think they should start earlier. They need to start really in elementary school with, what we used to have home economics courses. We used to have, a way to find out where your skill sets were. Anything. Even we want to create some, clubs in the schools, maybe where we can get kids to gravitate to the things that they want to gravitate effective when they get older and when they get out of school. They understand better what's going on.
So we so often see what's happened to professional football sports players,
Yeah.
A couple of years, 5 years or 7 years out of the last time they played, and many times it's a financial disaster. They're frequently known for that, and the leagues have been trying to help them so they don't wind up broke.
Well, they do have a pension. They created a pension
Yes.
for the NFL players, which was a huge benefit to them. I think that the individuals that, the ones that are getting the big bonuses and they just need to have somebody, they need to understand that they need financial advice. I mean, even if they just taught kids in high school that when you're in business, you need to have advisors around you who know how to negotiate or how to navigate the areas that you don't know. You need legal, you need accounting, you need management, you need all these things you don't know how to do per se.
Years ago, I used to look at what a general practitioner. I look at things to do arthritis, cardiac, vascular, brain, hearing, teeth, nose, all this stuff. When you're young, you don't think about that. You go to the GP and he looks at you and, okay, you're great, Johnny, see you in a couple of years. And then as you get a little bit older, you realize you have to start going to specialists, because if you don't go to the specialist, the guy that does ears is not doing knee surgery.
That's
right?
true.
And so lots of times people need some direction. So where can they find more about Route 664 and your
Funny you should
organization?
ask that question.
Okay.
So they can go to Route 664/radio and they can listen, route664.com/org/radio. But they can also go to our website, socialcharity.org, and and also on Facebook and also on YouTube, where these things replay. I'm trying to interview people who have that skill set so that they understand where that is, but they can also find an advisor. If they go to to that website, they can find an advisor that's familiar with how to do this work. And that's what's really important. The pieces of the puzzle can be put together by somebody who knows how to do it.
One of the things that each of us need to be aware of, if you have a construction license, you may be able to put up a house and not the roof, not the kitchen cabinets, and not the bathroom, and not the wallpaper. So people need to look for a specialist in that so they can get right to the point and understand it, and so they can interpret the information, properly.
Well, the philosophy of the professional philanthropic advisor is to be the holistic planning person, because they're actually getting into every part of the individual. I can't, as a professional philanthropic advisor, I can't tell somebody to make $1 million gift to something unless I know their entire story, because I need to know what their relationship with their kids and everything else, because these are major decisions that these people are making. So.
Sometimes people call us and say, well, how much is an ad? I say, I appreciate you asking that. Imagine you called a car dealer and you said, how much is the car?
Right.
So there's all these questions, and that's exactly to your point.
Right.
You have to find out this whole picture. What are you going to use this car? Oh, you need a truck. How many people? What,
Right.
You need a big truck, little truck,
It
etc.
depends on where you are in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Appreciate the interview.
And by the way, I was just watching you on YouTube a few minutes ago.
Oh, you were? Yeah.
Yes.
Was it good?
It was.
All right.
It
I
was.
like that. That's an endorsement, folks. Michael Miller. Oh, Joe, how are you? How are you, Joe? How you doing? Did we wake you?
No. Listen, I'm just standing here backstage, and hey, this was a great program so far. And
So far.
I want to give a big
What does that
shout
mean going
out.
forward. Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to our current members. You know, our current members, they're getting used to the idea of social charity. They're getting used to the idea that, they're not working for themselves, for their business. And then also, that unfortunate partner that everybody has, which is the IRS, which is an involuntary endowment. What you can do is you can put the money on the side and let it work for generations into the future. And that's what a lot of our members are beginning to understand through this program and through your program. I want to give a big shout out and want to thank you so much to Blake Roses. I met with them this week, and they will be scheduling a floral design class for those that are interested.
Great.
Of course, they're working with Roberta. Blake Roses is doing a phenomenal business right there on Collins Avenue in Sunny Isles Beach.
Right.
We're running out of green space in Sunny Isles.
So Blake Rose
there's-
is a little green space.
there's a big demand for the property in the area.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what we will not ever run out of green space over at our parks. We have Olita, we have Holover. We would like to see if that January and February event, which we're going to be in the planning with Sal and you and with other people in the community. We'd
Right.
like to see if we can bring some good old-fashioned rock and roll
All right.
to the community. I'm sure our seniors would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It would be incredible if we could get cousin Brucey to be.
Remo the Aqualung. Let's not date ourselves here. We're getting really back in time.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, we have to protect our age. I admit that I'm over the age of 35.
All right, Joe. I got to cut you short today because we had a pretty long interviews. Joe Gabris. Joe is the ambassador for the Aventura Sunny Isles Beach Chamber of Commerce. He'll be out and about. Joe also is a real estate broker and very talented realtor in the community. That's his day job. That's his other job, his real job. Joe Knows is also one of his greatest accomplishments, ladies and gentlemen, to date. And here's one of Joe Knows. Yeah, let's do Joe Knows.
Joe.
Not Joe's nose, Joe Knows.
Hi, this is Joe Gabris with the Aventura Sunny Isle Beach Chamber of Commerce, and we're out here over in Sunny Isles Beach, and we are looking at the ocean from Sunny Isle Beach Pier. It's located on 163rd Street and Collins Avenue. It's a crystal clean, beautiful day out here in Sunny Isle Beach. I want to just let you know that we are all open for business. Businesses in the area, they are thriving. The shops are open. The restaurants are open. The movie theaters are open. Right here behind us is the Newport Beach Resort Hotel. It's one of many of the hotels here on the beach, and it happens to have ballrooms, meeting rooms. They are packed. You could see here what we have is we have our tiki bars, and they are packed as well. Everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful time. The cruise lines are open. What we'd like to do is we'd like to invite you here. Come down to Sunny Isles Beach. Come down to Aventura. And by the way, if you do own a business, we encourage you to be a member of the Aventura Sunny Isle Beach Chamber of Commerce. We represent business owners, and we also happen to represent good citizens. Good citizens don't have to own a business. They just need to want to join to become part of our movement. People who work, they have regular 9-to-5 jobs. It's open to senior citizens that have retired, that are enjoying their senior years here in the garden spot of Florida, especially to young people. You can be 16 years old and join the Aventura Sunny Isle Beach Chamber of Commerce as a good citizen. If you're looking for your first job, this might be the place to start. As I say, there's many opportunities. All the businesses are looking for people. If you're interested in learning a trade, please come. We have a lot of incentive programs, so please do check us out. Aventura Sunny Isle Beach Chamber of Commerce. Our website is asibchamber.org. Number, me personally, 786-991-4889. We're looking forward to seeing you. And once again, thanks for coming down to Pier 163 over at 163 in Collins in Sunny Isles Beach. asibchamber.org. That's www.asibchamber.org.